Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Khaja Ahmad Akbar, and you're watching Council on Global Policies special series on strategic dialogue. And today we are honored by our distinguished guest, Mr. Pravin Sawhney. And in this session, we'll hear about the Quad and its implication on the regional strategic stability. And the session will be moderated by Lieutenant General Naeem Khalid Lodhi, Rale Imtiaz Military, who is the former Defense Minister of Pakistan and former National Security Advisor of Pakistan. And he will also moderate the session and will put forward the questions and take the discussion on the horizon. Thank you, sir. Over to you, please, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. We are initially, recording it and keeping it in a very limited gathering, but later on we will post it as we have got the permission from our guest. We'll post it on YouTube and Twitter and also Facebook. We are a think tank based in Islamabad, basically dealing with international relations and strategic matters. And we have decided to start a series on strategic dialogue. And this is the first one today. And we are very honored and I think lucky to have Mr. Pravin Sawhney with us, who is a leading military thinker, I would say, of Asia and South Asia. And he's editor of magazine Force, which is a military journal. He's author of several books. He closely watches and comments on changing nature of war. I've been listening to him. Developments in various armies of the region and also beyond, especially China, India, Pakistan, and of course, American army. Everybody, keeps an eye on that and learns from that. I would say that he's an authority on strategic matters, at least especially pertaining to our own region. So today we have asked him to speak to us on Quad and its implication on the strategic stability of the region, because to tell you honestly, I have not been able to make out what actually is Quad. It was created quite some time back, more than a decade ago. Initially, we were hearing that it is about tsunamis and environment, and then later on, it also included this COVID-19. But then there was an exercise of military navies, which took us by surprise that if it is all about COVID, then of course, the things were added that it is also about free passage of, naval vessels in the ocean, Indian Ocean and beyond. Mr. Swami, welcome. We would like to learn from you that what actually is Quad, how it is evolving, and in your opinion, what shape it can acquire in future, and especially if you can also make us wise that what contact or what you can say connection it has with AUKUS, or is there any connection, or there is no connection? Is it a part of a strategy, American strategy, which has gone from heartland of Asia to rimlands of Asia and then to Indo-Pacific and then going beyond? Is it a second line of defense and AUKUS the third line of defense? Or they have, of course, India is still there as far as the Asia is concerned. So all these things we would like to hear from you. And thank you very much again for joining us. It is a great pleasure to have you with us. Over to you, Mr. Pravin Sawhney.
So your mic is muted.
Yeah. Can I be heard? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for the very kind words, General Lodhi. And I'm really, it's a pleasure for me to have come on your forum. What I intend doing is for the next half an hour, I will talk about Quad. I will talk about how a security architecture is being created by the Americans. And then I will also talk about what are the countermeasures that the Chinese have taken. So this is what I'll be talking, and roughly about half an hour, and thereafter we can have a discussion if this is all right with you. Now, thank you. So, what is happening? The fundamentals are very clear to us that the entire game plan, the global game plan, has shifted to Asia Pacific. It's no longer in the Atlantic. And this is where the big power rivalry will be seen. And this is where this century will determine whoever is the leading power in the world. To begin with, I do not ascribe to the view that the supremacy of the Americans, which started well after the Second World War, now it was a unipolar world, and thereafter everybody is talking of a multipolar world. The way I see things is that yes, we are between orders, and eventually again we will have something like a unipolar world, perhaps towards the later part of the century. But that is not the subject right now we are touching upon. This was just to emphasize the importance of this region. Now, coming to Quad. Quad is basically a quadrilateral dialogue between 4 nations, which is America, Japan, Australia, and India. Now, the genesis, obviously, as General Lodhi pointed out, it goes back to 2004, the tsunami which was there. And in this tsunami, these 4 countries, they could interact with each other at a personal level, and they could do what came to be known as the humanitarian disaster was there of a great magnitude, and they could bring the relief there. So that is where this whole idea basically then was pushed by the Japanese. Shinzo Abe, the prime minister, he was very keen that as a consequence of this tsunami, the relief which was provided by the 4 nations, there should be a regional security architecture created where these nations come together to provide humanitarian relief. But then obviously this whole architecture went into a lull for a very long period. And actually it got rejuvenated only during the later half of the Trump administration. Now this is where the real action starts. And this is where I want to focus. So it was basically in October 2020 in Tokyo, where there was a ministerial meeting of these 4 countries. And this is where the then US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, he mentioned about formalizing Quad, and he mentioned about creating a security framework. And this is where for the first time the Americans said that we want to advance free and open rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific, rooted in international law. Now, this is important. A rule-based order. Who will determine the rule-based order? Will it be the United Nations or will it be the US? As of now, it seems that it will be determined by the Americans, and it also seems that even now, there is no clear definition of what exactly this rule-based order means. It has not been defined at all. But so be it. This is what happened towards the end of the Trump presidency. Now, the real action starts with the coming of the Biden administration. What is it all about? Quad is just one of the key elements, but the whole thing is about how to stop the rise of China. It is about that. Now, the Americans are worried that there is a competitor in China in the Asia Pacific region, and this has to be stopped. And so exactly what are they trying to stop? As we all know, the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative, it has 3 elements. It has a land element, which is the Eurasia Mass. Now, here the Americans have really no interest in getting into the Eurasia landmass after they have withdrawn from Afghanistan. So this has been left to China, Russia, Turkey, Pakistan, Iran. These are the countries who will create some sort of architecture here. The second thread of the BRI is the Maritime Silk Road. Now, this is critical for the Americans. So what they want to do is they want to constrain the options of the PLA and the Chinese in the Western Pacific. And they want to deny the Maritime Silk Road in the Indian Ocean region. The whole idea is that if a power can be in 2 nations, it becomes a global power. a power with two-nation navy is a global power. So I repeat once again, to constrain things in the Western Pacific, this is one aim. And the second is maritime Silk Road options should be limited or constrained in the Indian Pacific Ocean. Now, there is a third thread also to the Belt and Road Initiative. And the third thread is called the Digital Silk Road. I give a lot of importance to the Digital Silk Road, which is basically the new thing in the cyberspace. Now, what the Chinese are trying to do is the Chinese are taking what is called the retail internet to the industrial internet. This is a big leap of faith. Basically, what this means is that now in the industrial internet, we are talking about, earlier it was information supremacy. Now we are talking of artificial intelligence supremacy. And the key things will be 5G, wireless networks, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, big data, and cloud. I'm giving you that, that roundup, the big picture. So the whole idea is, how can we deny the maritime Silk Road? Not really deny, constrain the options. And how do we deny technology to the Chinese for their digital Silk Road? So this is the framework. Everything is operating in this framework, in my assessment. Now we come to the nitty-gritties. What is it about? So when the Biden administration came into office, they have really doubled up the efforts. While it is said that this is a bipartisan thing in America today, the challenge of China, which is true, but the Biden administration, the Democrats have put it on the fast track. And this can be explained by the fact that, first of all, in March 2021, which is this year itself, the first virtual summit was held of the Quad. This was the first virtual summit. And within 6 months, in September 2021, the physical summit was also held. Now, this says a lot. When you have two summits within 6 months, you are talking of centrality of the Quad to the Indo-Pacific strategy. Period. This is what you're talking of. Now, when I say Indo-Pacific strategy, what the Americans have done is, in May 2018, they brought India on board. What used to be called the Asia-Pacific strategy or the Pacific PACCOM of the Americans, now is being, in May 2018, it came to be known, it was renamed as the Indo-Pacific Command. The whole idea was to give a centrality to the Indian Ocean region and bring India on board. Now, what we are saying is, this security architecture will cover the Indo-Pacific region and their area of responsibility. Incidentally, that area of responsibility now actually has gone to East Africa also. It has actually expanded so much, their area of responsibility. So within this, there are 5 things happening, which are part of this to secure this architecture and to constrain, as I explained, the maritime Silk Road and the digital Silk Road. So the first thing is that the Biden administration came up with what is called the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. Now, what is this initiative? This initiative is that in the Western Pacific region, where you have these problem of South China Sea going on, where you have the Taiwan Straits, where you have the problem of East China Sea, all these problems are there. The worry of the Americans consistently has been that China has very powerful, what they call anti-access area defense capabilities. And this is what the Chinese call, the Chinese version of A2AD is the counter-intervention strategy. This basically means it involves a lot of missiles, land-based systems, land-based ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, all land-based. And it involves a whole lot of things, the emerging technologies like laser weapons, everything will come in this rubric. The idea is to keep the Americans constrained and to keep them as much away from the Chinese. Now, the worry of the Americans came about once the militarization of the South China Sea reclaimed islands, the islands which were reclaimed by the PLA, by China, they started militarizing it. This is when it was felt by the American military that today, once they have the missiles on these reclaimed island of South China Sea, they will be able to reach as far as Oceania, those 14 countries which are there around Australia. So this will be the reach. And so the first issue that came about was that because now there is a worry about the land-based missiles, two steps have to be taken. What were the two steps? The first step was in 2018, President Trump pulled out of the INF treaty. That was pulled out because it was felt that it was giving advantage to the Chinese, and which it was, because China was never part of that. This was done by the two blocs, the two superpowers during the Cold War. So this was one action. The second action was that there was a need to disperse the assets. Because if the Chinese were to get at one of the American bases, they could destroy their things in one go. So the idea was that instead of having few bases, then there is a need to have diffused assets in so many more bases. So this is what is called the Pacific Deterrence Initiative. This whole thing, that how do we disperse and we then create a deterrence of our own. So the idea was we will have our own hypersonic missiles, we will have land-based cruise missiles, land-based ballistic missiles, and what we will do is we will have them across the dispersed bases. This whole thing is being done to constrain the PLA within the Western Pacific Ocean. This is one thing. Now the second initiative is what is known as the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. The alliance between Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and US. Now, these is basically sharing of intelligence. This becomes very important. And one of the key things which will be shared is where is exactly the technology going? What is the problem with technology is, I'm just digressing to make the point. The problem with technology is that because now the world is entering into the fourth industrial revolution. See, the third industrial revolution was about the digital age, digitizations. Now we are talking of artificial intelligence and data. And the backbone of this fourth industrial revolution will be 5G. And Huawei 5G is by far, it has progressed far than the competitors. It has been adopted by a lot of BRI countries and even countries which are not part of BRI like Hungary. They are also now trying to get on board. So the worry was that if you have more and more countries which adapt the Chinese emerging technology, especially 5G Huawei, then China will set the standards. The worry is China setting the standards, because whichever country sets the standards, then you have to do the interoperability, your routers, your other systems, they have to then conform to the standard which is set by the country which sets the standard. So to deny China setting the standards. So that is what the one part of the intelligence will do. So the next initiative is, what is the Quad itself? Now the Quad, as rightly mentioned by General Lodhi, this is key to the whole thing. Why this is key is, I believe this provides the policy framework to the Indo-Pacific strategy of the Americans. And here, India will play a very important role in this strategy. Which is why, as I explained, they changed the name also to Indo-Pacific. But this is a subject which we can perhaps tackle in the question answer session. So Quad is another initiative which is there. Now the next initiative, as again mentioned, was AUKUS. which is the Australia, UK, and US, which is a very recent thing. In any case, they are allies. All these three countries are military allies. So what the Australians have done is that they have cancelled the deal they had for the conventional submarines with the French. And instead, the Americans and the British, they are saying that we will provide you the nuclear-powered submarines. Now, you see, this makes a sensational news. But the truth of the matter is, this is not an easy thing at all. Why it is not easy is that even for such something like a nuclear-powered submarine for a country even like Australia, to operationalize them will take something like 10 years. Now, what will happen in 10 years? Please, let's understand the robotization of war is happening. As the commercial world is moving into the fourth industrial revolution, the war also is moving. And the war will be robotized. And again, China is in the forefront here, competing with America. So the long and short is, what exactly will be done by a nuclear-powered submarine? Will it be crewed? Crew will be there? Will it be manned? And how will the unmanned systems fit with it? What I'm trying to point out is that there are technical, there are operational issues which need to be tackled. So it is not that this deal has been signed and tomorrow they will get and they'll start operating the nuclear submarines. Nothing of that sort will happen. From the American perspective, it is a commitment reinforced by one of their military allies. You see, Australia has a military alliance going back to 1951 with the Americans. So it's a reinforcement of that. Basically, they will now cover the southern part of the Pacific Ocean. This is what the Australia and Oceania, all that area, they will be looking at. So India has the role to play in the Indian Ocean region. So this is basically what we see in all this is what is happening. All the initiatives, as I said, these 5 initiatives taken by the Biden administration, they all are focused on the military aspect. Now, this is where I think they give the upper hand to the Chinese, because Chinese have been smarter. Chinese have commerce, trade, prosperity in the vanguard. And no country, I mean, China can talk to any country, no country will say that, look, I don't want prosperity. Everybody wants prosperity. So now what is the Chinese counter to this? What they are doing? So first of all, they are trying to commercially outflank the Quad through the initiatives of RCEP, which is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, through the recently signed, finalized EU-China Investment Agreement. And now they have also put in an application to join the successor of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, from which the Americans pulled out when the Trump administration came into office. They pulled out from there. So basically, they want to be everywhere. Let's be very clear. Today, China is the largest trading partner in the world. There is no global supply chain which does not have China in it. So all this talk about a second Cold War that the Americans keep talking is all nonsense. It's all baloney. There cannot be, I'm not getting into right now explaining what was the Cold War, what were its attributes, and how this one will be different. This is a subject we can talk another time because it has relevance today. But sticking to the subject that has been given to me, so the first key thing is that they are trying to commercially outflank the security aspects through the BRI. Now, what is the other thing they are doing? Other thing they are doing is that they are in talks with ASEAN. You see, ASEAN was the first, there were 2 countries in ASEAN, Malaysia and Indonesia, which are directly affected. You see, these are the countries which expressed their reservations, their apprehensions the moment this AUKUS deal was announced. Because they said that, look, this will raise the temperatures in our region and we don't want that. And in any case, to put it on record, the annual trade between ASEAN and China today is close to $900 billion, which is a hell of a lot. Their projects their infrastructure projects are being done by the Chinese companies. So obviously they do not want tensions in their area. So the Chinese are in talk with them. The whole idea is to break this whole thing, what the Americans are trying to put together. The third thing is, as we all have heard, yesterday Xi Jinping made the effort to speak with the new Japanese Prime Minister. The new Japanese Prime Minister, she has spoken to him and he has basically spoken about close ties and development projects with Japan. Now, Japan is part of all these things, and Japan has always been, I mean, though it's an ally of the Americans, but it has always been very careful about its trade with China. It will not like to jeopardize its trade with China. So that is the next thing that they have done. Next, what the Chinese are doing is they are strengthening, as part of the BRI, they are strengthening their security arrangements, which are in the form of cooperation, collaboration. Cooperation is bilateral. For example, between China and Pakistan. Collaboration is multilateral, like SCO. That is collaboration. Next, what they have done is they have strengthened or they are strengthening their military, strategic, and technical cooperation with Russia. Next, what they have done is, see, these are those very carefully crafted countermeasures. But they do not head-on collide with the American security structure. So this itself, a possibility of a war is ruled out. So next, what they have done is, if you recall in 2017, when the first BRI forum was held in Beijing under chairmanship of Xi Jinping, that is the time the UN Secretary General, UN Secretary General had formally accepted that the Sustainable Development Goals, which is it's a UN project, which is basically providing it is a huge project which started in 2014 and it will continue till 2030. And this will provide a lot of money and to the developing and less developed nations. So it was officially endorsed by the UN Secretary General that the BRI should be assimilated with the Sustainable Development Goals. That means they have actually gone into the United Nations. See the irony of the whole thing. The irony of the whole thing is that the Americans have created the UN after the Second World War. And it is now the Chinese who are basically playing a big role in the UN. This whole security architecture of the Americans is outside the UN. But the Chinese are involving the UN. For example, Chinese are the second largest contributors in terms of finances to the UN after the Americans, but, and here is the but, they have always paid their dues on time, which cannot be said of the Americans. Then the Chinese have announced that we have a standing force of 8,000 soldiers for the UN peacekeeping. They have kept it there. So basically, they are also working through that. Now, in any case, they have a special relationship with Pakistan. I don't have to dwell on that, but I am absolutely certain that if Pakistan, this is my assessment, don't take it amiss. If Pakistan can get its politics correct, you have prosperity in your hand. This is the way I see it. You can do the connectivity to your CPEC and through the peace sub-sea cables that you are taking to East Africa. All this is doable. Because Gwadar will at some stage become the hub. How soon is up to the Pakistani state and their government, what they do with it. But the Chinese have been very clever. They opened a base which they call the logistics support system or base in Djibouti. What they have done by that is, first of all, it has proximity to Gwadar. And second, earlier they had the problem in the Strait of Malacca. They could bypass that through the Eurasian landmass, their connectivity there. Now they will be able to now guard all their traffic, the commercial traffic coming through the Europe to the Indian Ocean region by keeping an eye of Strait of Hormuz and the Bab al-Mandeb. That's the key, this thing, node is there. So basically, the Pakistanis are on one side, the Chinese, Djibouti are there. In any case, you see, they've been doing long voyages since 2008 under the garb of anti-piracy operations. The Chinese naval ships, where they could test their endurance, where they could test the waters of the Indian Ocean region. They have done the hydrographic surveys of this ocean, and then they have a logistic base in Djibouti. So the point I'm making is, what I'm trying to say is very simple, that the Americans have always been focused on the military aspect. Although President Biden has spoken about something called Build Back and Better World, which is abbreviated as B3W. You see, the point of the matter is that who will pay the money, what will happen? Nothing will happen, in my assessment. It will just remain acronym what it is. So everything then boils down to, this is my last point on the Americans I want to make. Everything boils down to what they call the integrated deterrence. What is integrated deterrence? Integrated deterrence is what they are looking at, how to fight a future war with China. And this is also known as joint all domain operations. And this is where eventually all these Quad countries will fit in. And their strategic partners like India will fit in. So the operational part, let's put it like this, as far as Americans are concerned, they have an Indo-Pacific strategy. The policy guidelines or the centrality to that is provided by the Quad, and the operational aspect will be provided by the integrated deterrence. And AUKUS and 5G, everything converges into this. On the other hand, what the Chinese have is an entirely different security system based on cooperation, collaboration, and commercially outflanking the Americans and ensuring that the partnerships that they are creating in the various regions, they do not fructify. You know, this I have given a very broad overview of where Quad, where the security architecture fits in. And I'm very happy to, to get in the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pravin. And I think you anticipated it correctly that you have given the framework, but now we'll get into some discussion. Initially, what I'll do is that I'll rake out certain issues and we can both discuss amongst each other. Basically, you'll be talking. You are very, I'm very happy you covered nearly everything and cleared many of our doubts. In your opening remarks, you said something very intriguing, and we'll discuss it some other day, that world is transiting, although we see that the world is transiting from unipolar to multipolar, but in your opinion, it is again going to be unipolar. So we can understand what you're hinting at, but I think someday we'll discuss that. You very aptly covered the rule-based order, American rule-based order. Whose rules? I think a very good question. And you talked about the denial of maritime Silk Route, retail internet and industrial internet. That was addition to my knowledge. Thank you very much for that. I don't know whether we are going, this world would be, as they call it, Thucydides trap. Will that happen or not happen? You can tell us later on. And so many things. What Americans are actually eyeing at, what they are doing, and you also covered that what countermeasures the Chinese are taking, and their philosophy is very different. So one thing which just occurred to me that if you allow, I'll give this video to our National Defense University also, and they will give you the credit also. I will ask them to run it for their faculty. I mean, there are so many good things which you have mentioned. So my first thing is that we know that, and you have covered it also, that Chinese are ascending as far as economy is concerned, and also technology, but they are still behind America as far as military power, technology, and even political clout is concerned. Of course, they have nearly overtaken them as far as the economy is concerned. So if you were the American think tank, or let us say their strategic thinker, at what time the Americans would be thinking of engaging China militarily, or in other ways other than economy, because we do understand that even militarily means a lot as far as nowadays is concerned. So in your opinion, will they wait for the Chinese to come at par militarily and technologically also, or they would like to preempt? Because you're talking about deterrence. Deterrence means that they just don't want Chinese to go a certain way. But will they actually do something to make a dent, a preemptive dent in the Chinese ascendancy elsewhere other than economy? Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Lodhi. First of all, it's a good idea to give the video to the National Defense University. And I want this, in fact, that is why I was suggesting, please put it on the social media also, because this is how you generate the discussions. There's nothing classified that I have spoken. These are all my analysis, and I'm very happy to share that. Now, coming to a good question that you have put to me about a military engagement and at what stage. Now, we all have, done some, I have done a bit of service in the military, plus done a lot of reading. What happens is that a country only goes to war when it feels that it can control the war, when it can control the escalation ladder. So the reason why America and China today are building conventional deterrence as well as nuclear deterrence is that neither side will be, first of all, sure of war control. Neither side will be confident that if the war is joined, we'll be able to sort of control it or go, it can go according to a plan. Number two, the problem gets aggravated because of the emerging technologies and artificial intelligence. This is where both the countries are putting a lot of money, and this is where I said that the war, not only the character of war, the nature of war will change also. Let me explain this. The character of war basically means it keeps changing whenever the technology is inducted into any military. Then what they do is they come up with new war concepts so that they can optimize the use of the new technology. That is called the character of war. Nature of war is basically about violence and bloodshed.
Right.
And the nature of war has been constant right from when war came into being, or what we know of war. But now we see a possibility if the war will be robotized, Will the nature of war also change? I mean, this is another debate we should take on another day. You see, a robotized war, then who wins? So, when we are talking of this artificial intelligence and new technologies, we are not talking of tangible assets. We are not talking of hardware. We are talking of software. And the other side will never know. There's nothing called an arms race in emerging technology. It is not that you have 10 tanks and he has 50 tanks, so there is an arms race, you have to catch up. You don't even know that this guy has got killer robots, because that all that needs is a software change. You don't know that. So the point I'm making is that all that is happening today in South China Sea, it's happening in Taiwan Strait. These are operations what are called the gray zone operations, below the threshold of war. If you recall, the Americans were very keen. They have put in repeated requests that they would want their Defense Secretary General Lloyd Austin to meet up with the number 2 man, the senior most Vice Chairman Shi Long, whatever his name's pronunciation, I generally get it wrong, but you would have understood what I'm saying. So, but the Chinese have denied it. Why the Chinese have denied it is because the Chinese do not want to spell out their red lines. Because if they spell out their red lines, that the Americans can do a lot below the red lines, within those red lines. And which is why Biden has made it very clear that our relationship with China will be 3 C's. It will be confrontation, it will be cooperation, and it will be competition. So the confrontation, to my mind, will be minimal. And what happens will happen in the gray zone areas. So I rule out completely a war. There will be no war at all between America and China, and anybody who is talking of war does not make any sense to me. As a person who's been studying war for, nearly 4 decades now, it does not make sense at all, because why would I want to go to war? If a war is thrust on me, I can understand. I have to fight. But why will I initiate war if I cannot achieve my tangible objectives, and if I cannot, to achieve the tangible objectives, if I cannot do war control? You see, so it will be about denial, it will be about deterrence. That is my assessment on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A point which you have brought out is very interesting, that not only the character of war is changing, but also the nature of war. I think if you write anything on this subject, please let us know. We would like to study that.
My book is coming. My book is coming. I'll be telling the publishers, see if it goes to Pakistan.
It will. I think if you write on the changing nature of war, which I also think the same way. Probably that is that thing should be taught at all the military schools and universities. So if there can be no war, then whatever we call this this competition, but still the 2 parts or the 2 blocks would like to embarrass each other in one way or the other. If, let us say that whenever there's a competition, actually one side tries to. So I have an apprehension, and I want to share it with you, and then you will please respond. That whenever the big titans, they cannot clash directly with each other in whatever way. Now, I'm not saying that clash will be war. So they try to find out their allies or smaller countries appended with them, and they can then do something big to those small countries and then create an embarrassment for the bigger one. For example, what I am thinking is that if America willfully pushes Pakistan towards China, we have been trying our best to keep a balance, but if they willfully pushes us towards China, and then with the help of India teaches us a lesson in whatever way, they can embarrass China indirectly. Same way China can do, if they do something with India. So what are the prospects of this thing happening? Because this directly impacts our region, your country and my country.
You have raised some interesting points, and my response is this. First of all, what will happen in the competition? So a war is ruled out. But what is likely to happen is there could be a decoupling of supply chain, global supply chains, which again, is not making sense to me, but a possibility exists that it is possible, because this is the way the two trajectories are going. Number two, what can happen is that the cyberspace, the internet again could be divided. This possibility also exists. We are looking at an entirely different, we are actually living in very interesting times.
True.
These are those times when the world has never seen all this happening. You see? Now, coming to the question of America trying to push Pakistan, there is a very interesting comment which was made yesterday in Delhi by the US Deputy Secretary of State Sherman, who is now in Pakistan, I think. Right. She made it very clear that we cannot go back to the old relationship of de-hyphenated relationship with India and Pakistan, because our requirement with the two countries are entirely different. So, as far as the Americans are concerned, Pakistan is already in the, I don't want to use the word camps. Camp, talks about some military, whatever. So basically, when you are a key player in the BRI and you have a CPEC, which is the flagship of BRI, then you are one of the very important countries for the Chinese. So there's no question of pushing. This could be the reason that Biden has still not spoken with Imran Khan. You see, could be one of the reasons that, look, what is the point? Our interest in Pakistan are very narrow. It's counter-terrorism, it's Afghanistan, they're very narrow interest. But their interest with India will determine basically the future of the Indian Ocean region. So this is where I always I'm apprehensive about what will happen, because the Chinese are already supposedly occupying area in Ladakh. You see, so, but this is a subject we can talk another day. It's a very comprehensive subject. So the long and short is, we will be seeing very different outcomes because of this global competition. It will not be proxy wars and this. It will be because as far as the Chinese are concerned, they are not joining issues. Chinese are putting a lot of money in their military power. They are creating, they are getting into the robotization of war. They are preparing deterrence. They are preparing a credible deterrence so that the Americans are not tempted to go to war with them, period. This is the way I see it.
Right. Quite plausible. And in your opinion, the way things are going, as far as Quad is developing and whatever has happened in Afghanistan and even elsewhere, in your opinion, the relationship between the two neighbors, India and Pakistan, they are likely to further antagonize, and the animosity will further deepen, or it could be the other way, if we look at all the developments which you and me have been talking about.
My personal thinking is, and I'll tell you why I say that. See, when you make foreign policy, when you make military plans, it is very different from when we talk strategy. Why it is different is because strategy provides you the bridge between the political thinking, the political policy of a country, and the military plans of a country. The bridge is provided by a strategy. How do you bridge the two things? Making a military plan is easy. You have a format, you make a military plan according to that.
Right.
These are my war appreciation and this and that. But making a strategy is very difficult. If India was to sit back and think about strategy, because after all, what does India want? India wants prosperity for its own people. And I believe that prosperity is not possible without peace with Pakistan, period. It is not possible. If India wants prosperity, India has to make peace with Pakistan. We have to start talking, and we have to start talking all issues, every all issues have to be on table. There is no way. Otherwise, you see, India can keep talking about that we are in touch with America, but without your neighborhood is about Pakistan, essentially. That is what it is. You have to make peace. So this is my thinking on the subject.
I think this, and let me complete the other half, that even the Pakistan cannot prosper without talking to India and resolving our issues. Tawqir Saab, anybody else who wants to ask anything from Pravin Saab? Ji, Tawqir Saab.
Sir, I have received the questions from the panel. I think Tawqir Saab.
Pehle Tawqir Saab has raised his hand. Let him first ask. Ji, Tawqir Saab, your mic is muted.
Ji, thank you very much, General Lodhi. Actually, my simple and innocent question was that what is the objective of this quad? But I think it had been answered very professionally. My opinion is that if you, when we talk about war between China and US, the issue is if you push someone into a corner, what that country is going to do. Is it going to sit down and see what's going to happen with them? And secondly, I think whoever has a power in space technology and laser technology will have the superiority in the future. So I think I will a bit disagree about the war. I think Americans will provoke China towards a war, maybe in 10, 15 or 20 years. What will be the end? That we never know. So that my question was that how about the space technology and why Americans have established a space force? What is the purpose of space force? Thank you.
You see, let us agree to disagree on the first point. But having said that, let me say that you actually have made a good point, and you are correct to an extent, but in a different way. This is what I have discussed in my book. So I would like to talk here. Coming to space. You see, space, let's get that very correct. China today has the second largest satellites in orbit. It has more satellites than Russia. Second largest in the world. Not only that, in 5 key areas. What are these areas? Earth remote sensing architecture, global navigation system BeiDou, human space program. They have established this year a space station, robotic exploration program, and counter space program. They are there in all these 5 areas. What this means is that the belief is, since the first Gulf War of 1991, that this is the PLA belief, that if you want supremacy on land, terrestrial supremacy requires space supremacy. I would say that this argument today is not 100% correct, because other domains also have come in, which will contribute. But yes, let's not underwrite the importance of space. And this is precisely why in 2018, the Americans created the 5th service, the Space Force, after the Land, Air, Sea, Marines, and now the Space Force. So you're absolutely right in saying this about the importance of space. I agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Hamad, now you can bring those questions which you have received from elsewhere.
Questions from our panelists. That first question is about Mr. Pravin. First question is about the Trump's China policy in comparison with Biden's China policy. Our panelist is saying that in her opinion, Trump was more clear about China containment policy than Biden. What are your views on that?
See, first of all, let me start with the word containment. I am one person who does not believe that China is rising. I believe China has risen. China is not rising at all. So the moment we see rising and risen, we get things wrong. And this risen thing, why I'm saying this is, there is a reason. The reason is, please recall, all the military people will know this, that in 2014, the Americans came up with their third offset strategy. And that offset strategy was directed towards China, great power competition. That means in 2014, there was a clarity that we have to compete with the PLA and China. There was clarity. So around that time, China had risen. So you cannot stop China's rise. That is point number one. Now, containment. How do you contain a risen country? So I have problem with this word as well. So the word has to be competing with China. And that is what we have discussed today. Yes, there is a competition, and see, whether it is Trump or Biden, it's a bipartisan competition in Congress. So to say Biden was more, Trump was more, I mean, he's gone. The present administration, in 1 year, they have done a hell of a lot. I mean, to hold 2 summit meetings of Quad is not a mean thing. It's not something to be overlooked. It's very significant. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So thank you. The second question is about the Chinese cooperation model. This question is from, you can say, I have raised the question that Chinese model is more promising and systematic than compared to the American model. As Americans have introduced, they have talked about B3W, Build Back Better World, but we have never heard after that White House press briefing anything. And other than the Australia, UK, US, and now this Quad. So what do you think that we are witnessing Chinese projects and Chinese commitment on the ground, but Americans are on the papers and only seen in the media? What do you say about this?
So you see, these are 2 different models altogether, which is why a Cold War will never happen. That's point number 1. They are different models. Why I'm saying that the chances of the Chinese model of prevailing is because it offers prosperity. Having said that, even the American model until the coming of Trump was good. Why it was good is because when Obama was the president, they used to use the word first rebalancing. What rebalancing meant was 2 things. It was rebalancing of assets from Atlantic to Pacific Command, and it was rebalancing through the TPP, Trans-Pacific Alliance. They had the commercial thing in place over which 6 years President Obama had worked. But when Trump came, and in any case before him, the Congress rejected that. And Trump wanted to then go for the bilateral things. That is the way he thought he'll make America first. So unfortunately, now it has become imbalanced, and instead of calling it a rebalancing of forces, it is better to call a pivot. Pivot is a military term. The Americans have pivoted to Asia Pacific, whereas the Chinese are offering prosperity through BRI. Entirely different models. Actually, they can run parallel. They don't compete anywhere. The only place where they compete is, and where the competition is fierce, and which is why the tech war is going on. What we hear, the tech war, technology war between America and China, it is about the emerging technologies. And this tech war will not get less, will not subside. It will not happen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, our next question that I have received is about your mention of American commitment to Quad. What do you think of the diplomatic stature of American commitment after the abrupt withdrawal from Afghanistan and what they did to Iran-US nuclear deal? So how will you see that American guarantee will work? Because many institutions and many scholars have questioned American as guarantor in any other international agreement or in any international cooperation.
So there are 3 things here which we have to consider. The first thing is universal for all nations. And the first thing is that every nation will always see its national interest and not the interest of the other nation. That is point number 1. Point number 2 is, please remember that America has created all the institutions, global institutions after the Second World War. So whether it is proliferation, anything what is there, or it is the UN, or it is the World Bank, they have a certain responsibility. They cannot go away from that responsibility.
Thank you.
So to say that we will have an equal partnership with America, any nation, will not happen. And the third is that the Americans are not used to partnership. Americans have always believed, and especially the last 25 years until 2015, 14, when I said the third offset strategy came into being, they always believed that they were the only power. So the Americans actually believe that their democracy, their ideas, they are the best, and the whole world has to adopt that, and not realizing that America is a nation state. China is a civilization state. China is not a nation. China is a civilization. It will have something entirely different which the Americans cannot have. Thank you.
I will just add a sentence about the reliability of Americans, and there's a difference. One is that America giving undertakings to help others, and here it is others coming to join America. So there's a lot of difference. So this reliability factor doesn't come in as far as things like Quad and AUKUS are concerned, because they are being driven by America itself.
See,
so
helping, it will always be, General Saab, it will always be an unequal partnership with America.
True,
so ये बोलना to say कि हमारे साथ ठीक नहीं किया, उसके साथ ठीक नहीं किया. I mean, even India has to keep its eyes open.
True.
Because it's a global power still. It is the number one global power. You cannot have an equal relationship with it. It is an unequal relationship, period.
No doubt about it. Heather, you want to ask something?
जी.
Heather, आप पूछना चाह रहे हैं, Heather?
जी. Pravin sir, as everyone knows, that America is establishing multiple alliances against China, and Quad, of course, is one of them. And everyone knows that Pakistan is a very close friend of China. And talking specifically about Quad, so what do you think will be the implications of India being in Quad on the relationship between India and Pakistan?
अब देखिए, if I give you this answer, तो फिर आप मेरी किताब ही कहाँ पढ़ेंगे?
आपकी किताब हम फिर भी पढ़ेंगे अगर आप
ये कुछ चीजें तो मुझे नहीं बतानी होगी. So that don't mind. I mean, you have asked a very
I
good
think
question.
it will create more interest, and we will be looking forward to that book.
बहुत अच्छा सवाल उठाया है. But I will let this pass.
Good.
Okay.
Ji Ahmad.
Sir, I have received two more questions. One is
okay. Let these be the last two questions. Okay.
Sir, okay, sir.
Okay.
The feasibility of Russia, China, Iran, Pakistan working together against the Quad, because they aren't talking with each other. How you see?
So you see, how I see this is that the countries you have mentioned, उसमें आप include कर लीजिए, the first tier countries are China, Pakistan, Iran, and Russia. उसके बाद Central Asian Republics हैं, उसमें Turkey भी डाल लीजिए, वो भी है. So they're not competing with America. They are basically, they see their national interest in working together. That is their national interest. It's in their national interest. And everybody realizes, देखिए, what is happening is, which we have to always, when we do our assessment or when I do my assessment, I always keep this in mind. And what I keep in mind is that there are today only 3 geostrategic players in the world. By geostrategic, what it means is that a nation which has the political will and the capability to operate beyond its geographical territory. And those 3 nations are America, China, and Russia. 2 of them are on one side, and 1 is on the other side. So, अब आप probability देख लीजिए ना, for all the talk, the Americans may say that, look, we are preparing against Russia and China. I mean, it's nonsense. How do you take on Russia and China militarily? It's not possible. You see, one is an economic superpower, plus it is now becoming a superpower in the emerging technologies of war. And the other, as far as nuclear weapons is concerned, is a competitor. So this is where the things go in the realm of, complete nonsense. I'm sure some Pentagon people in the Pentagon must be seized of this, but unfortunately, this is the way they talk. Yeah, your last question.
And the last question is about the concept of two-front war in India. How far it is likely that America will support this initiative of Indian military or Indian establishment or Indian war strategists who are sitting in the war cabinet, actually?
You see, I would have given a 1 hour talk on this, but अभी आपके चैनल पे नहीं दूंगा वो.
I've heard you. I think you've written also a lot.
No, I've done videos also on this.
Right.
I've done videos also on this. You see, because I want कि जो आपका चैनल है, it should be there for broader distribution.
True.
वो maximum लोगों तक पहुंच जाए. हाँ? तो I will skip this question. Please don't mind.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think we appreciate that. क्योंकि और कोई बहुत कोई ऐसा बहुत जरूरी सवाल तो नहीं है.
No, sir. I think we have covered everything. जो questions आए हैं, we have covered them.
जी तौकीर साहब आप कोई बात करना चाह रहे हैं जी please.
Just one comment, nothing to do, I think, with war.
Just a comment, okay.
Just a comment. I personally think, and I've been writing, as you know, as well, that Americans have retreated from Afghanistan, but they are not defeated. So their interest is here, and they will use also Quad for this region as well. This is my comment.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Pravin Sawhney, thank you so much. I mean, we are delighted to have you with us, and we are not extending the session because we want you to be with us again. We don't want to scare you. That we don't want to tire you. So actually, the level of intellect that we have seen today, we are very happy that we selected you to be the first speaker as far as our strategic series are concerned. I hope and I wish that you will be coming to us again also whenever and we'll give you more topics. It's good. I think the South Asia is lucky to have you here because your thought is not only it covers a very high level of understanding as far as nature of war and character of war and strategy and all these things. It can also bring the two peoples together because if this thinking prevails and transcends in the leadership of the two countries, they would also like to understand the futility of the type of war for which we are preparing. So thank you very much. It was a great pleasure, and we look forward to.
I have one comment to make. Last comment, if you allow.
Please.
If you allow me,
please.
My last comment is, I genuinely want India and Pakistan relations to improve. I genuinely want peace. I want to interact with more and more people, with more and more think tanks, with more and more, people, peace-loving people in Pakistan. I want to travel to Pakistan. I want to do all these things because I feel this is about prosperity of India. I have my national interest in mind. So I'm delighted. It's been my good fortune to have been invited here at your forum. And I'm very happy for your kind words. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And don't be surprised if you get an invitation from National Defense University of Pakistan. Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.